So it's just for this season right now, that's what we're doing. But I mean, outside of that, man, yeah, I mean, things changed. I see things differently. You know how people are like, oh man, you just wait till you have kids and
Yep.
you'll see things differently. I'm like, I'm not to the point where I see my son standing on the couch and I think that he's on a skyscraper and if he falls, he's going to die. But I mean, I do see things in a little bit more of a, I'd say like dad sense. Like I do see things differently, and I preach differently too because of that. Because there's just this something shifted. There's just that spiritual like light switch that just went on. Like I'm a dad now.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Mediocre Dads podcast. I'm your host, Queon. I go by Q. We're being mediocre is a choice. We have to refuse to be mediocre every single day. Guys, this morning, I am going to be completely honest with you, running behind. But Matthew has been awesome, and he's been like, yeah, man, take your time. You're good, and I appreciate it very much because I don't like wasting people's time. But I very appreciate it very much this morning. I was telling him, I took NyQuil last night. Last time I'm doing that, especially when I have something in the morning, I will run behind every single time because NyQuil knocks me out. But, I'm excited about this episode, honestly, as I am for every episode, but this one in particular, because I remember reaching out to Matthew on Instagram, and I think one of us reached out to each other, but we're asking me a question, and I kind of was just like, fitness. Yeah, I'm already into it. Cool, man. Yeah, but hey, you want to come on my podcast? And he was like, absolutely. I was like, great. I can't wait. So it's going to be awesome. I love this episode. You know, as a man who's a father, who's in ministry full time, but then also is in the fitness side of things as well, which I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've met a lot of pastors, okay, but a pastor who's on the side who's like, hey guys, let's get jacked together. I've never met one. So it's gonna be a really awesome conversation we have here. But before we get too deep into it, Matthew, can you introduce yourself to the audience? Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me, man. It's going to be a really great conversation. But yeah, my name's Matthew. I'm the unofficial term is the youth pastor. That's also the associate pastor who happens to do media at my church. So like I do all this other stuff that the other pastor doesn't do. So it's a great place. It's a great blessing to be able to do that. But yes, on the side, my other thing that I've just really started to fall in love with and I think God called me to do is just a online fitness coach. So I help people lose weight, build muscle, just take care of their temple because, like what the scripture says, our body's like a temple to the Holy Spirit. So we got to take care of it. So woke up one day, 200 pounds overweight. And then God's just like, hey, take care of your body. I was like, all right, bet. And then did. And then he's like, now you're going to teach people to do it. I was like, all right, whatever you say. And it's been a great, crazy ride, bro. So,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
man, that's it. That's me.
I always find it intriguing, right? So is it the same for all pastors, right? When you start in this pastoral journey, is it the easy button? I don't want to say easy button. I don't want to sound mean here, but is it hey, you're going to start in youth ministry. That's where you start. That's like the pipeline, if you will, for pastors. It's like, if you can do good in the youth ministry, just maybe one day you'll be up on the main stage. For now, shine here. You know what I mean? Is that usually how it works, or?
You know what? I think there's this stereotypical mindset in that, actually. It reminds me of Toy Story 3 with Lotso. And you've got the butterfly room, and then you've got the crazy room. It's like, you got to pay your dues, and then you can get to the good room. And that's sort of how youth ministry is in some people's brains. It's like, okay, if you can tough it through and deal with these crazy kids for however many years, then you can deal with adults because you're going to have the same adults that are going to be up there anyways. So with that, I wouldn't say it's a rule of thumb, but I do see that in a lot of different churches. There's a lot of ambition with some of the youth pastors too. It's sort of I would say it's like a weeding out. If you can show yourself faithful in that area and you can truly just develop a time where you can pour into kids that just don't have their lives together, then you can in the same way scale that to a leadership position as a church. Now, I am one, and this is an unpopular, I wouldn't say unpopular, but depending on how close you are to the Lord, um, I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't be gunning for a position in leadership at a church unless God calls you to it.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking for a leadership role, the Bible even specifically says you should be careful, you who teach, because you will be judged more harshly.
Yep.
So with that, I'm like, you know what? I would much rather be completely, satisfied in like a 9 to 5 regular job or doing my own thing and not be judged as harshly if that's what you want me to do, Lord. So if you want me to go to it, you'll call me to it. And the only
Yeah.
reason I'm a youth pastor is because in our and we'll get to it in just a little bit, I guess, but in our church plant, our pastor was leading as the main pastor, but we didn't have a youth pastor. So I was a fill-in. Hey, will you
Oh
fill in
wow.
until I find somebody? Well, guess God found me, and I'm still filling in.
That's
So
awesome.
been there for almost 10 years now. So
Really? That's phenomenal, man. I love that. I
yeah,
love that. It's crazy. And my audience has heard me say this before, so I do feel the Lord has called me to be a pastor, right? And I was telling my
amen,
wife
dude.
this. I was like, "Hey," I said, "but I'm gonna be honest with you." I said, "I want to be a youth pastor." I was like, "I don't want to be." I was like, "Youth is where I want to cap out at." Right? Is like like, hey, I know, and I say this because I think there's a lot of people when they think of that, they think, okay, hey, I'm gonna go be the guy. I'm gonna be at a church, and the Lord's gonna call me to plant my own church, and it's gonna grow, and it's gonna be this thing.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah,
I whenever at time I think about it, I'm like, Lord, please make just I'll be the youth pastor guy. You don't have to make me go past anywhere else. I promise. I'll be good here. I'll be good here.
yeah,
I like this is I can succeed here. I promise. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Not
yeah,
trying to put a cap on God, but obviously if he calls me somewhere else, he calls me somewhere else. And it's been a whirlwind of an experience just because my whole life has been the army. And so with me getting out and navigating all that, and even still trying to navigate what that even looks like, what that even means, it is a whirlwind of emotions, and
for real.
you're not the only one going through this journey. You're married and you have a son. So like you have to not drag them along with you, but in a lot of ways you're like, hey guys,
Yeah.
we are following the Lord. you know
Hmm.
yeah, and so if he calls us, we got to go. Like there's nothing we could do. It's kind of like Noah, right? When his family, looking at his family, he's like, Sham, man, look, grab your wives. We're going. We gotta get on this boat, and we gotta
Yep.
go. Look at the wife. Yeah, you're coming too. Get on. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? Like it
And
was. It was.
it's so true, man.
It was one of
When
those.
you're called to ministry, your whole family's called to ministry.
Yeah.
So it's not a just you. Like wifey's got to be on board, and whether they like it or not,
Yeah.
the kids have got to be on board, and it's a beautiful thing, man.
For you, has it been has that part been difficult? Is involving your family, and I don't say that as a question to call out your family as if they don't want to be involved, but there is an aspect of when you're being a pastor is, you know what does that look like for your wife, right? What does that mean?
Hmm.
Does that does her involvement have to look as heavily as yours? And that can be
Yeah.
a little nerve wracking, especially if your wife tends to be an introvert. Mine's an introvert, so that is why I asked that question.
Yep.
But
Yep.
uh, uh, you know,
Uh,
what was that conversation like for you and your wife? If you're wanting to kind of go through that.
no, absolutely. I'm an open book, and I'll say
Awesome,
anything. So Jesus was an open book, so I'll be an open book.
I
But yeah,
love
dude,
it.
that's one of those things that I believe is not really understood unless you've been on the inside of ministry before,
Hmm.
recognizing the pressure that comes with being a pastor's wife. As a youth pastor, it's a little bit different. It's
Yeah.
almost like an expectation of, oh, she's going to be there for the kids. And, for lack of better terms in youth ministry, lots of people look at it like babysitting, but you're not really babysitting. You're actually raising up the church. They're not a junior church. They're not small church. It's the church
Mhm.
of today, just
Yeah.
younger. So, but there is this underlying, I guess, pressure that says that if you're a pastor's wife, you have to act a certain way, be a certain
Mhm.
way. And my wife's not an extroverted person. She's more on the introverted side. But once you get to talk to her, she's fine. However, as we've had these conversations before, being in large groups or talking constantly drains her social battery. Whereas for me, I'm completely the opposite. It energizes me. I
Yep.
absolutely love it. So knowing that, we have to come to this, I guess, not even a code, but like a, hey, I can gauge, I can know her because we are one and we've talked and we know each other very well. I can just tell where she's almost done or something like that. It's all right, cool, let me help you out. Let me do that. And on the flip side of that as well, being a staff pastor, even though you're only a youth pastor, people look at you and hold you to a higher standard, as they should, as scripture says.
Hmm.
And because of that, you're automatically roped into it if you're married. So as
Yeah.
soon as she says yes to me, as we were one in Christ, as we gave our covenant to the Lord when we got married, she was saying yes to the mission, yes to ministry. So has it been a challenge? Absolutely. Has there been a couple of conversations like, hey, we need to show up. We need to be in these kids' lives. We need to do X, Y, and Z? Absolutely. But at the same time, God's always there. The Holy Spirit's always there to sort of just help meet up the difference.
Mm.
Does that change how other people view it? Absolutely not. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, as long as we're okay with Him and we know that we're doing it His way, that's all that really matters.
That's awesome, man. What I started for a little bit, when I initially when I felt that I was called to go in that direction, I wanted to just jump right into it. So I was like, all right, at my church, I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to volunteer at my youth ministry. Um, I overwhelmed myself because had a very busy schedule, and
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do it for too long, and it's very unfortunate. But one of the things that the pastor, his name's Clay, the youth pastor, he's an amazing dude. He was in the army like me, so like we had that connection where we could, I could say certain things, and he completely understood what I was talking about. Um,
Yeah.
but I remember one of the conversations I had with him, I was like, yeah, it's just, for my wife, yeah, it is, it's not, it's not her calling, and she doesn't feel like, I don't want to feel like I have to drag her and my kids, you know, not only to church on Wednesday, and I'm not necessarily dragging them to church but it's in the sense of like,
Yeah.
hey, dad's going, so everyone's going, right? Like, I didn't want to have to like, hey, on Wednesday and then on Sunday, but then also any other events that they have going on, it's like, hey, we also have to be there, right? And I didn't want
Yep.
to, I didn't know how to understand the balance. And I remember him telling me, he goes, one of the things that he goes, I encourage you to do in the beginning, in these beginning stages right now, is get your wife on board and show her what it is, that why you're excited about this, and involve her. He goes, because
Yeah.
in the beginning, I'm not trying to, I'm sure he has no problem me telling this, but I'm not putting his business out there too much. But he was saying in the beginning, he goes, he had tried it kind of the way I was going about it at that point, which was just like, hey, I'm showing up, but my wife's not necessarily, because she doesn't need it, doesn't it's not her thing. And he goes, it was
Yeah.
very difficult, when sometimes when it was like, hey, we need to go to these events, but then people didn't really know who my wife was, except only on Sundays on very special particular church events. And so he was like, that made it very hard. And he goes, it made it harder on us because it did feel like there was a separation for a little bit because we weren't together in this. He goes, so I had to sit her down. We had to reestablish kind of like, hey, how are we going to do this together? Right. Kind of like you and your wife did, right? Hey, okay. Hey, I understand she has her social battery. Okay. Where is your limit? Okay, cool. When I see that you've reached that limit, that's totally fine. Hey, draw back. Cool. We got to go, whatever the case might be. Right. That may look like, hey, on Sundays, um, we volunteer, first and second service, but hey, once second service is over, I can't say afterwards, I got to get back to the house. Let's, get some family time in. It's important to my wife that we do that. We reset for the week.
Hmm.
So whatever that looks like. So that's one of the things that I've always been curious about, because I didn't realize how important or how heavy that was, or burden that was, especially as a young pastor, but not even the youth pastor, but then you have the lead pastor, the head pastor, right, of the church, that especially in that church, if that church has been going on for years, you can only imagine
Hmm.
that man's wife. Man, goodness, the
Yeah.
the years that you've had, everything you have to go through, right? You're like, hey, my husband has a full-time job, but so do I. Because of who he is, I also have a full-time job, so I understand it
Exactly.
could be a lot. But so for you though, you just had a son last year. You
Mhm.
named Silas, which is I love that name. Um, what did a lot of did a lot change in your life? Once you became a dad, as when it came to becoming a youth pastor.
I wouldn't even say as a youth pastor. The only difference is now, as a matter of fact, it's funny you mentioned that is we've actually taken we don't have nursery on Wednesday nights at our church. Long story short, since COVID, our numbers have been really low.
Hmm.
So we don't provide that because we don't have the volunteer staff for it. Um, and then my wife is in fact the nursery director. So practically on Wednesday nights, we found that once he was old enough, we started bringing him on Wednesdays. He's starting to find his voice. So like we'll be in the middle of worship and he's just like "Rah, rah, 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 rah," just talking out in the background. I'm like, all right, cool. Look, fill him, Lord, fill him. Eventually he'll get some English. Come on now. I'm like, who's got the gift of interpretation? Let me know what he said.
I love that.
So we have fun with it, bro. And the kids love him. Like it's been great. But we actually literally this past week implemented a new thing because long story short, my wife ends up having to take him out and keep him in the nursery anyway. So it's just her and him. She's like, I could do this at home and it would be so much easier. And we already have some other amazing leaders that are pouring into these kids' life as our female leader.
Mhm.
And so we talked to our pastor. I was like, hey, for this season of life, where we're at with how many students we have and the leadership that we have, let's equip some of this female leader to sort of take a lead role. So we're just empowering her, not putting it all on my wife.
Yeah,
One, it's helping my wife's social battery, but then two, it's also empowering people to step into even more of a leadership role. So
yeah,
this past week we actually implemented that, and now my wife stays home on Wednesdays with Silas so that she can be more intentional with him. And then also it's not a huge drain for her to feel like she has to be there, show up,
mhm,
put on her game face, talk to the kids, and then Silas gets upset. Now she's got to be in and out of service. So it's just for this season right now, that's what we're doing.
yeah,
But I mean, outside of that, man, yeah, I mean, things changed. I see things differently. You know how people are like, oh man, you just wait till you have kids and
yep.
you'll see things differently. I'm like, I'm not to the point where I see my son standing on the couch and I think that he's on the skyscraper and if he falls, he's going to die. But I mean, I do see things in a little bit more of a, I'd say like dad sense. Like I do
Yeah,
see things differently. And I preach differently too because of that, because there's just this something shifted. There's just that spiritual like light switch that just went on. Like I'm a dad now.
yeah.
So I can't really give you a physical example, but that there's just a knowing there. So
Well, no, I think that's beautiful, right? Because it's one of these things where I have 3 kids, so now for me, um, one of the how I notice the difference is the soldiers that I was leading. Excuse me. Whereas before there was this sense of like I didn't mind being tough with them in a way because it was like, hey, we're soldiers,
mhm.
I need you guys to be tough, I need you physically, mentally, I need you to be tough because at one point their expectation is we might have to go somewhere, and
Yeah,
we don't have the luxury of taking account for your feelings every single time in every single situation. um but as I had more kids, I tell you, I sit there and I'm like, I look at things, my response to things is totally different because now I'm not looking at these young people, these young men and women as just soldiers, but I'm looking at these young men and women as these are somebody's kids. These are
yeah,
somebody's kids. They grew up and whatever their life was like before this, but they found their way here under my tutelage at this current moment, and I'm responsible for them. And I don't want to lead them astray. I don't want to lead them in a way that's going to be bad for their future in their life. And so now I'm looking at them with a lot more compassion than I had before. I'm not going to lie to you. Compassion was like a not a thing for me.
yeah, yeah,
But now I'm like, oh my goodness, like I'm it's like, no, I wouldn't want my kids to go to experience that. How can I make this easier for you? And now what can I do to help you, to guide you? I find myself being more involved in their lives, because I want to help them, and I see them as like, if my son were in that situation, what would I do for him? If my
yeah,
daughter were in that situation, what would I do for her? Okay, where can I meet the middle, right? Where I can still be their leader still be there in the head or in charge of them, but also give them that kind of like, hey, that stern love that dads usually give, that will help them and remind them that, like, hey, you're not defined by this situation, but there's gonna be consequences to this situation. You can't escape the
Hmm.
consequences. However, you know, understand this is not out of malicious intent. It's not out of hate. This is out of love, that I want to see you not just grow past this moment, but in the future to become someone bigger and better than even me. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
the way I led, it was a lot different. And I'll never forget this. I remember I had a soldier. I called him in the office because he said something. I'll be completely frank. So where we were in formation, we're waiting for a reveille to go off, where we salute the flag every morning, and he's talking. He's a black soldier, and in the middle of formation, which is made up of a lot of different people, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning, so everyone's very just kind of like, "Well, we're just here because we have to be."
Yeah.
And he decides that he's going to talk about him playing basketball, and he forgets where he was, and he uses the N word. Now, everyone hears it, and everyone is just kind of as when something happens like that, um, the everyone doesn't look at him; they look at me. Why? Because they know I'm in charge of him. So
Yep.
when he says it, everyone kind of just does this one of the slow nods and just kind of like. And I'm like, in my head, I'm already like, bro, it is too early for this. Oh my goodness, what are we doing? So I never,
Yep.
I never forget. I said, man, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So afterwards, after the flag goes off, there's just this slight hesitation. Everyone's kind of like, all right, let's see what Sergeant Wilcox is gonna do. And so I remember I kind of told him, I'm like, hey man, you can't listen, man, you can't say that. You cannot be out here. Forget where you are. You can't say that. I said, hey man, listen. I said, on your free time or when it's just you or hanging out with your friends, if is that the way you talk? Listen, I don't agree with it, but hey, while you're here, you have to be professional. You can't say those things. And he tried to walk away from me. He was like, "Ah, man, you just whatever, man." I say, "Hey, first and foremost, look, I'm being very, very kind with you right now." I was like, "This can go one or two ways. Either you acknowledge me and what I'm telling you, or I said this will get worse. I will get pissed off, and then you're just gonna get the side of me where it's not gonna be fun anymore. It's just gonna be embarrassing." And I said, "I'm not trying to do that."
Yep.
And he was like, "Roger, Sergeant, is there anything else?" I was like, "Nah, man, don't make it happen again." So he walks away. Another NCO, black NCO, walks up to me. He says, "Hey, man, really good how you handle that. One thing I need you to do, though, put it on paper," which means we just write a counseling, right? So I was like, "All right,
Yeah.
Roger that." I'm not a person who likes to do that. I don't like doing that. So fast forward, it's the beginning of the day. I go into his office. I sit him down. I say, "Hey, man, listen, I said, I know that it slipped out. I know that you don't say that at work. I know that you like to make sure you're being professional." I said, "But you can't make that happen again." In the middle of this conversation, he goes, "Listen, man, you're not my dad. I don't know why, but every time you want to talk to me, you talk to me like you're my dad or something, and you're not my dad." I go, "Wait, what? I'm not trying to be your dad. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a dad of only." I was like, I'm a dad at the time. I was like, I'm a dad of one, and her name is Nevaeh, and it is not you. I said, "Listen, man, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to give you what I believe would help you, rather than just come in here, put a piece of paper in front of you and say sign it. Never, don't let it happen again, because you're not going to get anything from that." And we couldn't get him past that, because he felt from that moment on that how I approached him, I was just trying to replace his dad. And I didn't understand it, because I was like, what is that even? How did he get to that
Yeah.
conclusion that I was trying to be his dad? And even now, my soldiers would be like, you treat everybody like you're a dad. You like we're your kids. And I go, well, I'm not gonna lie, man. You guys do a lot of things my kids do that annoy me, and it
Yep.
makes me feel like I haven't left home yet. Like I have to repeat myself 15 times. It's crazy. You're a grown adult. I shouldn't have to repeat myself. And for my sake, the
Preach.
soldiers. You know what I mean? Like come on now. Like even for the
You sure
kids,
you're not in
like
ministry?
well, let me tell you. Even for the kids, man, like they're like 21, 22. I'm like, listen, y'all. no, we're not doing that. Okay, not going to do that.
Acting like 16-year-olds, I bet.
Yes, and I'm like,
Yes,
we
yes.
are in the United States Army. Like, okay, let me put it this way. And I'm not big on titles, but it's important for my job in the military, right? I'm Army
Yeah.
counterintelligence. So what does that mean? That means I have a badge, and that means I when I introduce myself in a professional environment, I'm Special Agent Queon Wilcox, right? When my soldiers introduce themselves, they're Special Agent such and such. So I'm like, you can't
Mhm.
walk up to a full bird colonel and be like, "Hi, I'm Special Agent and Brad, and you want to hear a joke?" No, there's a level of decorum professional you have to have. But it's like,
Yeah.
I feel like I should. This is something I shouldn't be teaching you. You should have this. You should know this, but they don't, and it gets frustrating because I'm like,
Yep.
okay, all right. Because again, if something happens, it's not them that gets in trouble. No. Where's
Yep.
Staff Sergeant Wilcox? Go find him. Tell him to come see me. Oh my gosh, what happened now?
Yep.
But anyway, that is
Mhm.
kind of what it is. It's like you take on this role and your persona changes, and it doesn't even you don't even realize it's changed to the point where like everyone sees everything you do is you're doing it and it's subconscious where you're doing it from a perspective of like how would a dad do it? How would their dad do it? How would a loving dad, compassionate dad approach this situation and help these young people? Because honestly, when you're in charge of young people, you're like, all I want to do is help you. All I want to do is help you and teach you, because I can tell you, life is going to throw its first punch at you pretty soon here, and when it does, you're going to come out. You might come out here with a bloody nose and a black eye, and you're going to be like, what was the thing my dad was saying that one time? Your brain's all discombobulated. You
Yep.
can't remember. You know what I mean? You're like, Jesus something. Okay, Jesus, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
it feels like
Yeah.
it was the hardest punch ever, and all that happened was your car broke down on the way to work and at your first job.
Facts.
You know what I mean? And you're like, hey man,
Facts.
grand scheme, not really a big deal. Call your boss, tell them your car broke down, right? Get a tow, walk to work, or Carl get a ride, right? Easy problem to solve.
Yeah.
However, for them, it is the end of the world. They're like, I'm gonna get fired.
Yep.
My friends are gonna leave me because they're gonna think I'm a piece of crap at work. No one's gonna hire me. It's just gonna, they spiral downward. So everything you do is
Yeah.
just in the sense is like, hey, I'm here to help you and teach you and try. I don't want you to struggle, right? Anyway, I've spoken a lot, I know, but so for you,
Great
Matthew,
stuff.
no, like so honestly, man, for you though, I feel and I understand that. But I wanted to ask, because growing up, who we are today is usually in a ways is how we were raised and what happened to us when we were young. But so for you, was your dad, were your parents, was it always like, hey, you know, um, love and compassion and church and hey, just get into ministry? Did you know at a young age like, hey, this is what your life was going to look like, or did you kind of feel like, hey, when I'm an adult, I'm gonna go do my own thing?
Yeah. So no, that's a great question. I feel like everybody asks themselves that, especially even as a teenager. Like I talk
Mm-hmm.
to students about it. They're like, "Man, when I get out, I'm gonna do this, 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 and this." I'm like, "Well, I know your parents, and I know you. Listen to your parents, because you're stupid. You don't say that. You just say, "Oh, I love you. I'm praying for you."
Right.
But no, man, I we've been in ministry my whole life. Like my dad was on the board of this really big church in the town that we're in. My mom was the financial advisor. She was a CPA for the church and stuff like that. So like all sorts of different stuff, very involved, whether it was in actual ministry or whether it was involved in just helping the church. We were always there. Every time the doors were open, we were there. But that being said, I think that left sort of like not a bad taste in my mouth, but just a burnout, if you will,
Yep.
of ministry. Like my whole life is this. There's more to life than being at church.
Yeah.
And then not even that, like I guess it would be the physical building to me, because I was always there 24/7. And now that knowing what I know now, like we don't even need buildings. We just need to be God's people.
Yeah.
Um, so like just growing up with that mindset, I look back at it now and I'm so thankful for the way that my parents raised me, because they kept me in church even though I didn't want to be in church at times. There were some Sundays I'd wake up and be like, I just don't want to go. They're like, okay, sucks. We're going. And we just go to church. And it'd be funny because then I get there. It's like the gym. Like, oh, I don't want to go. But then you get there and you start getting into it and you're like, hey, I'm glad I came.
You're
right?
right.
And some of those Sundays, some of those Wednesday nights that they dragged my butt to church were the nights God encountered me and completely wrecked my life. So, like, without that, like, any parents out there, any dads out there, make your family go to church. It's your decision. It's your step. You are the man of the house. You're the head of the household. Make it happen, because guess what? I am a product of my family because of what they did.
Hmm.
So, like, 100%. Um, with that though, I did have my ups and downs. So, like, I got to a place where, like, when I got married, I was like, I'm gonna make my own decisions, do my own thing. Now, I didn't go off the deep end or anything like that. Like, I didn't go like, oh man, I'm gonna go party and drink and do all this stuff. Like, I still had enough connection to the Lord that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna. I had that foundation that my parents had laid enough to where, like, even if I tried to, I would feel sick in my stomach. The idea of going out and doing X, Y, and Z, not even just
Hmm.
the idea that I would be dishonoring them. They let me know what I do would grieve the Holy Spirit, and I was
Yep.
so sensitive to that. So, I mean, we made some different choices. Like, even now, some of the entertainment choices that me and my wife we'll watch some shows and stuff like that. Whereas my parents are just like, absolutely not. We don't watch that at all because it's got this, this, and this in it. I'm like, there's a fast forward button, and you don't
Yeah.
have to watch it or listen to it as long as, like, it's whatever.
Hmm.
So it's just stuff like that. But I mean, outside of that, man, I'm pretty much my dad and my mom combined. Like, I've got the outgoing personality, and I can talk to anybody, and I'm also stern. I'm also like, if I walk into a place and it's not being ran right, I'm like, y'all shut up and listen to me, because I'm about to fix it, because y'all don't know what you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
that's my personality, but also have the compassion of my father, sort of like you were talking about with your group of people that you lead. Like, I see people, and I just want to just, without even being a dad, people always told me that I was a dad.
Yeah.
Like, I'd always just be encouraging them and trying to, like, be there for them. And I even had one student that came into my life, and his dad passed away when he was 2, and he got ran over on some train tracks because his family's alcoholics and stuff. And he got saved when he was 16, started driving and going out and doing some stuff. And it was a couple of those times where he's like, "Hey, Pastor Matthew, I need some help. Will you come help me?" and stuff like that. I'm like, "I got you, man." I ended up sleeping on my couch a couple times. And I remember this one time he comes into my office in the middle of the day. He was supposed to be at school, but he wasn't. He was playing hooky. And he's like,
Mm.
"Pastor Matthew, I need to come talk to you." I was like, "Why are you not in school, dude?" He's like, "I need to come talk to you." So he comes and talks to me, and he's like, "I skipped school today, so I don't care, but I need to tell you something." And then I was like, "Okay, oh my goodness." And in the back of my head, I'm like, "What did he do? What's going on?" Okay. And dude just busts down crying, and he doesn't cry. So I was just like, "Are you okay?" He goes, "You have no idea. Like, I know that sometimes I'll let you down, but you're like one of the father figures in my life, and I appreciate you for that. Like, I would not be saved without you." I was like, "Holy cow." He's crying. I'm crying. The Holy Spirit's crying. We're all crying. It was a crazy, amazing moment.
That's
But
amazing.
I know that that wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have been treating him the way that I saw it replicated in front of me by my parents.
Yeah.
So, the long story short, yes, I went out and made my own life, but it's not too much farther away from the path that my parents set me on.
That's awesome. I ask that question and I tell people all the time, selfishly because of my podcast, I get to ask the questions and
Absolutely.
they're questions more a lot for me that I'm, personally have experienced. So sorry guys, forgive me. I hope you understand. If you want to ask questions, start your own podcast. You can ask your own questions. Anyway,
Facts. Facts.
no, but I asked that because when I was so I grew up in the church. My parents, we were church, and it was the same thing, like you said. It's like going to the gym. You didn't want to, you're like, oh my gosh, it's Wednesday again. Oh my goodness, man, this feels like this week feels like it's just Monday. Can we please give me one more day?
Yeah.
And so we would go. They would make me go. They drop us off or whatever. And that was always when it would be like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I came. I had a blast coming to church. But when I was 18 and I joined the army, or was 19, I was 19 when I joined the army. 19, joined the army. And shortly after, I got married to my high school sweetheart, now my wife. And we, in the beginning, I was like, hey, I'm a grown man. I said that statement a lot, as trying to reaffirm myself that I was grown, as matter of fact, but
Yep.
it wasn't actually. Um, but I was like, yeah, I'm a grown man, so I decide. So we didn't go to church. I didn't take us to church. I didn't make us go to church because I was like, finally, I get to decide my schedule is, what I want to do, and so that really separated us, obviously, from church and from all that. And I remember my father-in-law sits me down one day when we're visiting back home in Arizona, and he was like, "Hey," he goes, "I need to know, like, where are you at with your faith?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well," he goes, you and Aubrey, you guys don't go to church anymore, and you're not committed to the Lord as you were when you first asked me to marry my daughter." And so this is kind of like a serious conversation to be having
Yeah.
with my
Yeah.
father-in-law, but at the same time, we're sitting in his kitchen. So like I'm like, what? And like in an hour, he has to take me to the airport to drop us off. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, what? We're having this conversation right now. And
Yeah.
I told him, I said, honestly, I said, I just have a lot of questions that I said that I would like answered first before I feel like I'm going to commit my life to that. And I said, I think this is a decision that I need to make for myself and for my family, like you did for you and your family. He says, I understand that. But he goes, remember what I told you when you first asked to marry my daughter, what was important to me. And I
Yeah.
was like, at that time, I'm like, we said a lot of things, so I don't remember. But I will tell you what he said, because he reminded me this last time in May when we were out there visiting them. And one of the things that what he had said that now I'll never forget is that I have a responsibility not only to them, my family, to her, but it also to my future kids, is to love the Lord and to teach them and guide them to make sure and to help them make sure they understand how to get into heaven, right? And say how, meaning obviously having a relationship with the Lord, not, hey, go
Yeah.
do this and go do this thing, right? But ensuring that I'm helping guide my family getting into heaven. And that was, and when he reminded me of this in May. And so now I think back to that conversation we had sitting in his kitchen when he tells me, he's asking me, hey, where are you at with your relationship with the Lord? And I'm like, I don't want anything to do with the guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with the guy. And so now, now it kind of, every time I think about it, it kind of burns in me, because I'm like, oh my goodness, am I doing the right thing? Am I leading my family the way I'm supposed to? Am I leading how Christ led not only the disciples but others, right? Am I doing it right? Am I doing the right thing, or am I just playing along, chugging along life, only worried about if Quan's salvation and not my family, and helping them, and teaching them and opening the word with them on a if at a minimum a weekly basis, saying, hey, yes, let's go over this lesson, let's talk about this, like answer the
Yeah.
questions, because as a kid, I think what I didn't have, and no fault of my parents, is I didn't have the opportunity to ask questions of what was in the Bible, um, versus when I was expected that when I go to youth services on Wednesday and church on Sunday, that I was getting everything I needed, versus being like, my dad. I told you before this, right? When he texted me, my dad every morning never fails. Either between 5 and 6:30 every day, every morning, he is up. He is reading his devotional. He has a small little devotional that this thing looks like it's been through the ringer, and he's had it for like 100 years
Yeah.
almost. It's highlighted, it's underlined, it's got notes in the margins, it's got everything in there, right? And every morning he goes out there, he reads it, and he prays. And I like, and he drinks his coffee and he prays. Like, I can tell you, like I said, like 8 o'clock in the morning, I can call my dad, and I know he's awake and he's reading his Bible. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he's doing.
Yep.
And I never understood how he could be so committed to the Lord in that way, until now in my life. 3 years ago, my life completely changed when I finally understood, finally recommitted my life back to the Lord. I was like, oh, he desires to be out there to experience the Lord in the presence of the Lord. He desires, that's why he
Yeah.
does it. right? It's not just a religious activity that he's doing. No. He's doing it because he desires to be in the Lord's presence, to know how is he to lead not only himself, but his family today. And so
Amen.
now for me, one of the things I learned is I'm like, okay, I want to be able to answer my kids' questions. I want to be able to show them like, hey, this book, and I have my Bible in front of me right now, but it's like this book is full of things like you can, like it's like you have to have questions. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, does anybody have any questions? You have zero questions. Are you kidding me? I know someone has to have a question.
Yeah.
There's no dumb question here. Ask your question. Trust me. Trust me. Someone in the millennium has had that same question. Ask the question, because we want to help you. We want to guide you. So that's why I asked that, man, because I was the one. I was like, nah, man, I'm grown. I don't need to go to church. I'm not going to go to church anymore. And I saw how it impacted my family. And so even now, I'm taking extra steps to make sure that my wife, especially, is her walk with the Lord is there, because it was my fault that we stepped away. But our entire life, so like, keep in mind, I met my wife when we were in sixth grade. Or she was in fifth grade. I was in sixth grade. So I've known my wife for a very long time. Her parents had worked at the church that we go to. Her dad's one on the board. So we've gone to the same church for a very long time. So like I've known her parents, and they were in youth ministries when we first started, dating. So like I've known her parents for a very long time. So that is why that level of compassion with that conversation. But anyway, I love this, right? Because this is to me, for one, I'll be honest with you, Mediocre Dads has evolved in when I first started the podcast to where I was like, it was a more secular thing, to now almost every episode I found myself talking about the Lord, and it makes me excited to talk about it, because I'm guys, look, there's so much out there. And I was afraid, I was hesitant to invite him into this space here in particular. I was like, well, that is outsiders for him, but I can still be Queon on the podcast, and I won't, the Lord won't be here, right? But that's not the case.
Don't work that way.
Doesn't work that way.
Right
there, 100%, man. So I wanted to ask, and this is kind of for me really the nitty gritty of it all, right? But you've had all of that in your life, right? You're doing that, but then you're also like, hey, Lord, fitness, right? So how does fitness get involved in that? Because again, most people, when they think of pastors, they're not like, hey, are you going to the gym with Pastor Matthew today? What Matthew goes to the gym? Yeah. He's leading a workout. Good luck. I went last week, not going again, but are you going? If you go,
I
I'll
died.
go.
He prayed me back. It was crazy. Resurrection. Wow. Like deadlifts,
and he was preaching at us the whole time. So Forrest Frank was the only radio station. So the fitness stuff, like, how did that get incorporated, right? Because again, people think of pastors, they're not like, oh, he's working out right now. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What is he doing? He's deadlifting how much? Oh, yeah. All right. Interesting. Deadlifting 315 pounds. Should we be concerned?
One day, maybe.
Should we pray for him? Is he okay?
Yeah.
Blink twice if you need help.
Yeah.
Man.
No, man, it's I'm glad you asked, because it's been a journey. If you would have said this to me a year and a half ago, I'd have been like, fitness? Who needs fitness?
Yeah.
But honestly, dude, God just woke me up one day, and if you look at the average, just I heard a statistic yesterday, and this was from 2020. 42% of America is obese. That's almost half.
That's a lot of
if
people.
If you rewind 10 years before that, it's 14.
What?
If you rewind 10 years before that, it was 8%. So it's like, holy cow. And now, we talk about it in the church all the time. The divorce rate in church is just as high, if not higher, than it is in the world.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So then you have to start thinking, okay, statistically, because I'm a big numbers guy. I actually went to school. I've got a bachelor's in business administration, a minor in accounting. So I love numbers. So if you look at just the numbers, because numbers don't lie, it's math is God's. we've got a ton of people that, without even knowing it, we've fallen into gluttony and no one's talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
We've fallen into all you can eat buffets as normal, even though we're not supposed to completely overindulge. Like
Mm-hmm.
seven deadly sins, we're like, oh yeah, lust is bad. Don't watch porn, but man, go to Golden Corral and eat your heart out and be 200 pounds overweight. And
Yeah.
I was like, I used to laugh at stuff like that, but I was like, oh my goodness, have we become so deceived because we have put more weight on one thing than the other, when in all reality, God said sin is sin.
Yeah.
We all fall short of the glory of God. What is the definition of sin? It's missing the mark. So I woke up one day whenever I got married, and just a little bit of my testimony. The reason I actually created temple training was in high school. I was 145 pounds my whole entire life, from 8th grade until about 12th grade. I was 145 pounds. I was running, I was playing baseball, I was playing soccer, track, all the lanky kid sports. That was me. So I was constant like that. I couldn't put on any muscle to save my life. I went to the gym all the time, but like just to lift stuff. And I mean, I could lift heavy weight, but I didn't look like I could.
Mm-hmm.
Then I finally get into college, and I finally started gaining some weight because I was able to eat whatever I wanted to. I was eating out, I had a little bit of my own money. So I'd like go to Taco Bell all the time. Hallelujah. And then after that, I got married, and I had this side chick while I was married. Her name was Little Debbie, and she just hung out in the cabinet. So every single time at night, before, when my wife was asleep, Little Debbie would call and be like, Matthew, and I'd be like, I'm coming. And so a couple cosmic brownies later, literally in 2 months, I packed on 15 to 20 pounds. But
Wow.
you see yourself in the mirror so often, you can't really tell until you start having things tell you stuff. So then
Yeah.
I recognize, oh, my pants are fitting a little bit tighter. Oh, I can't, like, my belly's hanging over my pants a little bit. Oh, it's fine. Cause in my brain, I was like, this is normal. I'm just skinnier than most of the people I know.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit 200 pounds, and God really convicted me, because I looked at the average weight of all the pastors and stuff, that especially that I either personally know, or you look across the state, it's or even the nation. And I'm like, wow, like a lot of these pastors are super, super overweight. I was like, at least I'm not as big as him. And then God said, well, what if we're all missing the mark? I was like, okay, time out. And I did a really deep study into our bodies and what they're meant to do. And you look at the different sizes of stuff that we used to have. Like if a large Coke at McDonald's versus what it was in 1990, right? It's like large, and now we've
Yeah.
got like large.
Yeah.
Why? Because we have grown into a society of obesity, of overindulgence. And just because our culture says that doesn't mean that it's okay and that it's going to be acceptable in God's eyes. Because what does he say? You must be born again. And when you're born again, you're born into his kingdom, to his culture. And if
Yeah.
we're still living a life outside of that culture, then we're trying to put laws and rules into his kingdom and following those that aren't even part of it.
Yep.
Like, because we live in democracy, because we live where we have like all these different branches, and everyone's got power to make sure no one else gets power. That's not how the kingdom of God works. It's God and God alone. He is the authority and the final word say. And the Bible specifically says gluttony's a sin. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm eating all the time, I need to take my health into consideration. And I told myself for 90 days, I'm going to get all this weight off. I'm going to just grind. I didn't go to the gym or anything like that. I literally just started taking into consideration, studying, how should I eat? What should I eat? What did it look like to be healthy back in the 90s and the 2000s, before all these giant companies started doing like this crazy stuff, that adding all this stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And I lost about 25 pounds in about 90 days, literally just eating right and doing the anime workout where you just do push-ups, sit-ups, and stuff like that. So, because I couldn't afford a gym membership because
Yeah.
ministry. So, but that's a different conversation for another time. But that's okay. I
Yeah.
don't do it for the money. I do it for the Lord. And but yeah, man, I it's funny, within those 90 days, it was some of the hardest days, but it was also some of the most fulfilling days. And I will say this, I've never been able to hear God more clearly than right now in my life. And it's because my faith, my spirit, my mind, and my body are all where they need to be.
Yeah.
And I, I believe, and this is what God showed me through this journey, is if God is three in one, triune, he's the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. We are mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
So if our mind and our spirit are good, but our body isn't being taken care of, whether we know it or not, then we can't live to the fullest potential that God has for us. We can't
Yep.
live to the fullest potential that God wants us to have. And not only that, I wanted to lose the weight and have the strength so that I can be the best I can be for my son.
Yep.
Like he's starting to crawl and walk around now. And I'm like, dude, I can get in the floor. I can do push ups. I can like hold him. I can toss him up in the air and stuff. And people are like, oh, aren't you scared to drop him? I'm like, heck no, I got good catching skills. I play baseball. It's fine. But like I think about that. I'm like, my dad was a great example because every time we wanted to go outside in the backyard and throw the ball, we could do that. He'd even get down on his knees and catch for me. Like I think about that. I'm like, I couldn't have done that a year and a
Yeah.
half ago because I was
Yep.
so overweight and I didn't feel good and I was too tired. Yeah, son, let's just play some video games. Let's play, you know, uh, let's just go play Fortnite or something. Like it's less extenuous or something like that. And I'm like, man, what type of life is that?
Yeah.
So it just woke me. God did it, honestly. And then he turned around and said, I want you to show others how to do that through your business. And that's where temple training came from. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love that. The Army has always been a tool for me, in which I had to stay fit, or in a form of have
Yeah.
to take fitness seriously, right? And that's always what it's been. But I mentioned 3 years ago where my life completely changed. So the heaviest I've ever been, 270 pounds. I'm not a tall individual. I'm 5'8" on a good day,
Right here.
okay? Yeah,
Right here with you. Yep. Yep.
really
Short gang.
5'7", 5'7.5", 5'8", when we're
Depends on
around
with the
it.
shoes.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so 5'8" at 270 pounds, that's not a good look on me at all, right? And I remember we got family pictures done, and I look at those family pictures now, and I'll go, that's absurd. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I had to, I had to take it seriously, and I got down to 215. And I remember being at 215, or when I got down to that weight, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it was like to feel light again. Because at 270, I would bend over to tie my shoes, and I would get tired. I'd be out of breath. I'd walk down the stairs, I'd be out of breath. I'd walk up the stairs, get out of breath. If I did a short little stint of like, hey, I got to rush up the stairs or something, I'd be like trying to hide it from people that I'm out of breath. But
Yeah.
really, they could still, they're like, oh, you're all right, man. And I'm like, oh, I'm just out of breath, And it was just because I was just out of shape and I wasn't taking it seriously. I was drinking excessively. It was a whole plethora of things that you mentioned, the gluttony side of it, and so I can completely attest to that, and how serious it is
Mhm.
to take your body seriously, and to really understand what it is. Because my dad he's a pilot, and how old is my dad? 60? No, he's 60 something. 62? I don't know. Anyway, he's around that age. But he doesn't look like that, right? He's this dude, he'll wake up, he'll run every morning with one of his dogs, and then he does push-ups, pull-ups. He that's his kind of his thing. In what he
Yeah.
does. But when I was growing up, I played basketball, my brother played football. But he would go out there and he would play basketball with me. And I'm talking like, be like, hey, we're going to the park. We're going to run full court. He's running full court with us. And it's like, whose dad is this guy out here playing basketball with us outside playing full court, right? And it's my
Yeah.
dad. So like that has been the example of my life. So like my dad, when it comes to me playing sports, he's like, yeah, hey, let's go practice. Let's go practice basketball. Let's go practice football with my
Yeah.
brother. And so like that for me has always been the example of like, okay, that is what I want for my kids. And I want to be able to be that individual for my kids. I want to, like, hey, my daughter's, she wants to, do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Then dad's got to go learn BJJ, with the
Come
adults,
on now. Yes, sir.
and so I could, not put her in a chokehold, but, let her know dad still can move, and show and help her out.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, I got to go learn it because there's an expectation that like, hey, dad, I'm learning a thing. Why don't you know anything about it? Why aren't you teaching me? Why isn't this coming from you?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? With limitations, there are some things that dad just cannot do. I'm not gonna lie to you, okay?
That's okay. Age does play a number. I will say
right?
that. Yeah.
And so and the Army has not been kind to my body. But yeah,
I can only
and so like,
imagine.
yeah, no, I'll be 31 in November. Let me tell you, my daughter calls me old. And she's like, "Oh, dad's old." And I'm like, "You have no idea. I'm actually not supposed to be old." But, uh, 31 apparently is for me is like, I feel like I'm 42 years old. Sometimes my knees, my back
The
don't like
army adds an extra year every year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they definitely add some years, but it's all good. I won't allow it to completely bring me down. But yeah, I
Yeah.
want to be there for my kids and when they're playing those sports, because I wanted to have kids when I was young for this reason, because I wanted to be more active like my dad was in
Mhm.
my life. Um, but for you, it is, you started this and you're doing this thing. How has it been, right? Like what has been some challenges, right? Because we don't always have that drive, like you said earlier, to want to go to the gym, right? To be like, hey,
Yeah.
work out again. Oh, my coach has this workout plan. Oh my goodness. If he doesn't let me eat these goldfish, I'm going to be pissed off. Like
Yeah, yeah.
what has been some challenges that you've come across?
Man, a lot of them. But the biggest, I would say, the biggest ones that I feel have been the most crucial is the ones that tie into my spiritual life.
Yeah.
So part of temple training too is the reason that and people are like, why do you only help Christians? I'm like, no offense, people that don't know Jesus or love Jesus don't want to hear me talk about Jesus all day. So
Hmm.
don't like that. You don't want to work with me.
Yeah.
So, but what God specifically showed me is as it is in the spiritual, so it is in the physical. One thing I love, you talked about how your dad spends time with the Lord every single day. And you said, I don't know how he could do that. Oh, wait, it's because he loves it. It's because he wants to spend that time. But here's the thing is it probably didn't start off with that. And one of my favorite
Hmm.
quotes is this, and I can't give honor to where honor is due because I don't know who said it, but whoever they did, it's amazing. Discipline turns into desire,
Yeah.
and your discipline will become your desire. The scripture even says that God gives us the desires of our hearts, but what we don't know is the desires of your heart change based off of the discipline that you have in your life. Like I used to not like going to the gym, but now I love it. I
Yeah.
used to not like eating healthy, and now I love it. I just got back from vacation and I ate like trash. I felt like trash the whole time because I was eating fried stuff all the time. And I usually don't do that just because it's not as healthy for you and stuff. Not to say that I cut it out. I do have it every now and then. But I was eating
Yeah.
like every single meal. So I felt garbage. I broke out for the first time in like a year and a half. I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
what a pimple? What? This is crazy. Like I never get this. I was like, wow, because as it is on the inside, as it is on the outside, as it is
Yeah.
spiritually, it is physically. So once I really started aligning that, okay, discipline turns into desire, I had to realize this. If God's saying, behold, I'm making all things new, he's not waving a fairy wand and saying, boom, now you're new. You're transformed through the renewing of your mind, like Romans
Yeah.
12:2 says. So I have to think differently. If I want to be the Matthew that God's called me to be, I have to step into and start pretending like I'm the Matthew. And eventually, guess what? Pretending isn't pretending anymore. It is you've stepped into destiny.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for me with the gym specifically was discipline had to turn into a desire. So I opened up and told a bunch of my friends, I told my brothers, keep me accountable. I'm going to the gym for at least 3 months straight now. But I'm like, whether I'm by myself or with somebody, at least 3 times a week, I want you to keep me accountable. I had a bunch of people keep me accountable. And I made sure it happened. I made sure it was impossible for me not to become the man that God called me to be. The other challenges was just eating correctly. Learning how to eat correctly is the hugest thing because everyone knows this with social media. There's so much misinformation out there.
Yep.
It's crazy. And if you get into a position where you're analyzing everything, you get into what's called analysis paralysis, where you're taking everything in and analyzing everything, but you're not taking any imperfect action to learn and to actually try to put in it. Okay, well, what is going to happen?
Mhm.
Like one of my students specifically is like, man, I took so many notes the other night. I'm like, great. What'd you do other than that? Oh, I took notes and I'm studying. I'm like, I could care less about you taking notes. Do what the notes say to do. Yeah, but I
Right?
don't know if that's going to be the most optimized way to do that. I'm like, optimization comes by you trying, failing, and then learning from that, moving the different direction. What would have happened if Thomas Jefferson's like, I'm going to take notes until I get it right? We still wouldn't have light because notes
Right.
didn't do it. Failing 999 times did. So take some action. And I guess that would be my biggest thing is once I started looking at myself as someone who needs to take imperfect action, then I started becoming the man that God called me to be in my physical life. And people are like, oh, you're a fitness coach. You must live at the gym. Do I go to the gym? 4 times a week now. Used to only 3 times a week, and I'm only there for about anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour max.
Yeah.
And like your life of fitness isn't just lifting weights; it's lifting the fork. It's I would even say it's what you consume through your eyes and your ears. It's all sorts of different things, because
Yeah.
as it is in the spiritual, so it is in the physical.
Man, you know, I want to finish with this question, right? So, I have your Instagram up, and I was kind of taking a look here, you know, but again, for a lot of people, right? You're a youth pastor, a husband, a father, and not in that order, of course, but you're in
Yeah,
a fitness coach, right? And so much more, I'm sure. But when we, as a pastor especially, right, there's a certain image that you have to portray. And
yeah,
especially as a youth pastor, right? Because kids are on social media, and us older folks, when we use social media, we look like we're dinosaurs when we come to using social media, because they
yeah,
know all the little tricks, and they're like, why didn't you just, that looks dumb, what do you like, are you new to this? And you're like, well, actually I am, so please,
yeah, yeah.
some mercy, please. I'm learning.
I wasn't born with an iPhone.
You know
Okay,
what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And
I had a
so
flip phone.
it, they don't know about the razors. Let me tell
They
you,
don't. They
like,
don't know. They don't know
they
about the razors. They
razors were
don't.
like the coolest thing when I was a kid, like when the cell phones started really
Click.
becoming real. Yeah, you know what I
Yes.
mean? That was the coolest thing to have. Now, all of a sudden, you show someone a razor, they're like, what is that? That is like, they don't remember CD players, Walkman. Are you kidding me?
Cassette
They
players.
don't know
Come
what
on
it's
now.
like to stick a Walkman in your back pocket with your cheapo headphones, and then your batteries
Yep.
break or the headphones break, and you're like, God forbid it's the Walkman, and you're scratching your CD. Oh my goodness. They
Uh huh.
don't know. Y'all don't
They don't
even
know. They
know.
don't know.
Okay. Anyway,
Yep.
so you have this image as a pastor that you have, and I don't want to say have to maintain, but unfortunately there is an image
Yeah.
that you have to portray, or, and because perception is I like to say, perception is in the eye of the beholder. So if I see you as a pastor doing something that I perceive to be wrong, or whatever the case might be, you have to, obviously, as a pastor, you have to say, hey, I can't change it. Only way I can change that is to make sure you understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? And so
Yeah.
I asked this question, right? So but you're also a fitness coach, where you prioritize fitness, looking good, right, and all these things on Instagram. Is there a balance, or is there a balance that that you have found difficult in the beginning, where if one of their youth students found your page, and they're like, oh, look, Pastor Matthew's on his Instagram with his shirt off, flexing for us, and letting everybody know like who he is. But then he comes in the church telling us, hey, don't be posting inappropriate stuff on social media. Well, hey, Pastor Matthew, I mean, look, I can show you right now. This is you, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is you. What, are you trying to thirst trap us here? What's going on? So is there about sorry guys, I'm trying to use the young people language, is there a balance that you found difficult amongst that? Because again, you're held to you're held to a high standard, as we talked about in the beginning. So is there a balance you found difficult in that, or is it kind of like, hey, you and the lead pastor, like, hey, you have an understanding, like, hey, this is what I'm doing?
Yeah. No, that's an excellent question. It's funny you say that, because I literally actually took a video down uh, a couple weeks ago of me responding to somebody, and I was responding to um, a female influencer that was talking about how, hey, I'm over in Europe and I can eat whatever I want to, and I'm not
Hmm.
bloated. And then she just simply shows like, look, I'm not bloated, and pulls her shirt up, not revealing anything, not sultry, not inappropriate, just like as proof of point.
Yeah.
And I was responding to it, and then went into well, this is the reason why. And without even thinking about it, I'm thinking from a fitness perspective, not from a
Yep.
pastor perspective. And I know some people, not to me, praise God, Lord set me free of heavy lust a very long time ago. But for some people, that might activate lust in their eyes.
Hmm.
But at the same time, lots of people don't know this, but as a fitness coach, especially a Christian fitness coach, there are so many, and I mean, I'm just gonna be blunt. There are so many gay guys that hit on me on social media. It's ridiculous. They're
Wow.
like, "Teach me, daddy." I'm like, "I ain't your daddy, but I can point you
Wow.
to the only one. And if you don't
Yeah.
know him, there's another one that you." Anyways, that's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
say with my hands.
Yeah.
Uh, But I was like, yeah. So where's that balance is what we're looking for, because I am a pastor, but I'm also a fitness coach. And this is what I've come to the conclusion is if I'm doing everything I can to teach men how to steward their bodies well, to look the best they can without vanity,
Mhm.
simply to prove a point that you can have a very good, healthy, strong, good looking body without it being vain,
Mhm.
then that's what I have to do. You can't prove to somebody that you know what you're talking about without showing what you've got.
Yeah.
So, what I came to the conclusion was, and talked to my mentor and my pastor about, is with some of my posts, the reasons I always have a shirt on. The only time you see me without a shirt is whenever it's a proof of concept, like, hey, I know what I'm talking about. Other than that, I'll always have my shirt on because of that reason, because I have
Mhm.
had students see my stuff, and mine's not students be like, oh my goodness, Pastor Matthew, you're being so vain, like why do you take your shirt off? They're like, dude, this video was cringe, why'd you do that? And I'm like, well, that video happened to get me some people that wanted to come and work with me, so shut up. How much did you make this week? And they're just like, oh, don't work. I'm like, yeah, because your mommy and daddy are paying for everything. That's what I thought. Yeah. So I
Oh,
just give it back to him, man. So,
that's
but
awesome.
there's the balance practically is, if God told me to do it, I have to do it.
Mhm.
And if God told me to do it, I can do it in a holy way. There's
Yeah.
also this idea in church that, like, we're so I would say, like, polarized. It's either black or white, and there's a lot of gray in scripture. We've
Mhm.
got some people in some churches that are preaching you can't drink alcohol, period. It's
Yep.
wrong. You shouldn't. Why would you even flirt with the idea? If God says don't get drunk, you shouldn't even drink it, period. But Jesus made wine, right?
Yeah.
So I'm personally never going to have it, because I don't want to even get close to the potential of, I don't know if I'm a lightweight. I don't know if I have one cup, if I'm going to be, whoa, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't want to flirt with that. However, I'm not going to judge someone who wants to have a glass of wine, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit back and be like, oh my goodness, you're a sinner. And in the same way, some people are like, oh, Matthew, don't you know that you're making people lust by you putting yourself out there? Some people lust at shoulder blades. Some people lust at girls that have whatever. Like, you think of the old Pentecostals, and there's still churches like that. Oh my goodness, their ankles are showing. Oh no. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, someone's going to find some way to do that,
Mhm.
period.
Yeah.
Whether it's me,
Totally.
whether it's someone else as well. If my heart before the Lord is right, and I know I'm doing it for the right reasons, and the way that I'm doing it, I know for a fact, for the majority, it's not going to mess around with the majority.
Yeah.
It's fine. And as long as my pastor, because I have to honor my pastor who's above me, says that it's okay, then it's okay. But I also have to understand, if my pastor says, hey, we've got some people that follow your page, I know some of the struggles that they have, you need to take that video down.
Mhm.
I'm perfectly okay with that, because,
Yeah.
again, everything I'm doing, just like what Paul says, I'm doing everything I can not to make my brother stumble,
Yeah.
and that's
No,
it.
I
But
love
some people
that.
just going to stumble naturally.
Yeah. No, I love that, because again, like, the balance between, I don't even like the term, but being an influencer, if you will, and, or a
Yeah, I
content
hate the
creator.
term.
I hate those terms. It's so annoying, but,
Yeah,
but also still being, it should being able to still show your commitment to the Lord. Like, hey, I'm doing this for or, because the Lord, this is what I feel the Lord has called me to do. Not doing this for my own vanity, and not doing this for my own pride and my ego and all these things,
yeah,
right? It can be hard sometimes. And like I said earlier, like the balance that, like, having this podcast, when I had my podcast in the beginning, it was all about Quan. And then I remember at one point I gave it to the Lord. I say officially, officially gave it to the Lord and said, "Hey, Lord, you do what you want to do for the podcast. You want it to grow, you'll make it grow. You want me to step away, I'll step away. You want me to talk about you and only talk about you, I'll only talk about you." You know what I mean? Like, I had to give
yeah,
it to Him, and there were some times where I thought, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to give up on this because this is not what it was going to be for me anymore." Right. But, every time I kind of say I'm going to give up on it, there's this kind of like feeling of like, no, hey, like, I did the episode and it was super exciting. And I'm like, I'm glad I do this. I'm glad the Lord has kept me to keep doing this. So, like, I totally
yeah,
understand. I totally get it. I only asked that question again because I think for a lot of men, especially, there is this side of life where we put a lot of rules on ourselves, that it's like, hey man, who told you that was a rule? Who told you that was a standard
Yeah.
by God, right?
Yeah.
Again, the perfect example,
Mhm.
and it's funny, I was talking about this yesterday with my mentor, and my spiritual mentor yesterday. I said, growing up, I knew a lot of pastors that would tell people that, you're not allowed to drink. And I was like, when I got older, I found that out that that was a man-made rule. I said, I understand if they themselves struggled with it, so they put that rule on themselves, but to put that
Yeah.
on your whole congregation as if it was from the word, I said, well, that's wrong. And I said, that's wrong, because you lead people astray, because now you have people out there repeating what you're saying, and they're like, what Bible are you reading? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, did you know that Jesus that was his first thing he did? He turned water into wine. He told his
Yeah.
mom, Mary, like, it's not my time yet. But she said, hey, do what he says. And he turned the water into wine. Like, I don't know if you understand. Like, that was the
And it
first
wasn't
thing he did.
Welch's grape
Yeah,
juice.
exactly.
It was real
Right.
wine. Now, it wasn't as alcoholic as it is nowadays, but yeah, it was real.
It was even crazy, because they came back and they said, hey, usually we put the good stuff in the beginning, not at the end, but you left the good stuff for the end, right? So, like, I need people to
Mhm.
understand, like, not like that was like the first miracle that
What's
Jesus
the good
did.
stuff?
You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the good stuff for it? Especially back then, they're saying, what's the good stuff? And they put it in the Bible. Obviously, man, that was some good stuff. You're right.
Yeah.
So like, it's a lot of unspoken rules, and that's why I ask, because I think for a lot of people, a lot of men especially, like, hey, you have to read your word. You have to read your word, and you have to understand what it is
Yeah.
the Bible says and what is the Lord wants. One, it's his will, not our will. So and his will on Matthew's life looks totally different from what his will on Quon's life looks like. So I try to
Yeah.
express this to people all the time. Like, I can't tell you what the Lord wants you to do. Now, if he tells me to let you know, or to help you lead in the right direction, sure. But you first have to come to him, and you have to acknowledge him, and you say, hey, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? What is it you want? Who is it you want me to be? How am I supposed to live my life for my family? Right? Because again, what it looks like for Queon is different from what it looks like for Matthew. Right? There might be similarities at different points, but it's still very different. Right? And so I think that's a very important message there. But Matthew, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a wonderful
Absolutely,
time
man.
talking to you, man. I love this. Like I said in the beginning, I knew it was going to be a phenomenal conversation. For people who want to follow you, check your page out. What's the best place to look for you? Where to find you?
Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all the main socials, and it's just Matthew's Temple Training, all just one word. So
Awesome.
that's how you can find me. Would love to connect. Would love to help anybody out that's looking to lose some weight, gain some muscle, have some guidance.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's awesome, guys. All of his stuff will be in the description below, so you can check it out. I highly encourage you to check him out. Okay, guys. I think it's very important. Like, again, I've never met a pastor I won't say never, but you're like the second
It's rare
pastor that I've
nowadays.
met. Yeah, it's very, very rare. They're like, hey, let's go get jacked together and talk about God. Okay, great. Bring your Bible and your weights. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it's awesome.
Spiritual
All right,
gains,
guys.
baby.
Absolutely, guys. We're gonna get out of here, but thank you for joining, Matthew. I really appreciate you coming on as a guest, guys. As usual, being mediocre is a choice, and you have to refuse to be mediocre every single day. That is all we got. Mediocre Dad's out.